Hey everyone, I wanted to quickly apologize for the audio quality in this video. As you can see, the venue was fully packed, making it a bit noisy. But no worries, I've added captions so you can easily follow along with anything you might miss. Now, let me introduce to you Rory Wayne Voller, Advocate and Commissioner of the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, or CIPC. He's got some insightful things to share.
Based on what we do at the CIPC, most of you know us to be the registrar of companies, right? When you come in and you register your company, hopefully you get a good experience. If you don't, then I have to take over with my staff and make sure that certain things change. But over time, the one thing that we have possibly prided ourselves on is that we're trying to make your lives easier. Because at the CIPC, and I'll come to a bit of statistics, but I'll start with some of it now. The majority of businesses that we register, the majority of companies that come to us for assistance and help are by far and large the SME sector. More than 90% of companies registered at the CIPC is 1, 2, and 3-person directors and shareholders, which is small business. And that's why we need to make your lives better. And that's why shows such as this, where all of you get together and network, is something which encourages us and makes us want to do more. So what I will also touch on a bit is that not only do we need companies, but I also want to introduce yourself to the world of intellectual property. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about in the last few years, and how we can use intellectual property to grow your businesses, and how intellectual property will make your business stand out. And the one thing that always is at the top of our list of the work that we do is the ease of doing business. So ease of doing business is why I believe we exist. If we're only responsible for registering of companies and maintaining businesses, what value would we have, right? Actually, we have no value. So value add is vitally important to why we want to do more and why we appear at such events like this, and we do it around the country. A big education and awareness components, marketing, that go out and say, how can we help you as a business person going forward? We will also touch on some aspects about why we are a regulator of businesses. Sometimes the word regulator puts fear in people's minds and hearts when they think about a public entity coming with a big stick to try and deal with when things go wrong. But if things do not go wrong, then we shouldn't be actually regulating anything, right? We should be continuing to facilitate the business environment and make the ecosystem of inventorship and entrepreneurship much better for all of you. But this is what we do at the CIPC. This is what our mission and vision is to regulate and to grow investment in the country by having a playing field where everybody feels valued, and also to make sure that we leverage off the technology aspect of the CIPC in order for us to provide you with a passion for service, which is a core value of ours and something that we are certainly proud of. CIPC has a very large mandate. I'll give you an example. We've got almost 500 staff at the CIPC. A fairly large organization. We have a presence out every single province. I've got CIPC offices in various provinces, and the ones that we don't have a presence in terms of an actual CIPC office is we have a collaborative model where we have partners and economic development houses which we partner in the various provinces to supply your business. You know, most of the business happens in, unfortunately, 3 provinces, which is Gauteng, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. But that does not mean that we should not have a presence in all the places to try and facilitate and make sure that those provinces receive exactly the same attention as if we were in Gauteng. And look at the turnout. The turnout here today is just mind-blowing. And Mike was telling me that many of you do not actually come from some of these provinces, you come from throughout the country, which is certainly encouraging, because one of the main core functions and the discussion we had in Parliament yesterday was obviously economic transformation and growth. Right? That's at the forefront of why the department for which I belong to exists, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. And this is now the driving 7th administration of government in order to place a major emphasis on the economy and economic growth. It's always been there. As we all know, the economic challenges in South Africa are a multitude of them. But the fact that the 7th administration under the GNU, because there was a whole lot of, in the committee that I sat in yesterday, there was a mishmash of various parties giving their views, but everything drives the fact that South Africa is a precipice. We need to grow the economy, and small businesses, like in various countries, is at the forefront of the work that we do. So we're responsible for so much legislation. I won't bore you. Just the mandate aspect of where we are. Not only do we want to grow the company and small business area, but we also want to grow cooperatives, because we've seen that in a developmental state such as South Africa, the use of cooperatives is also one that is vital for growth and economic stimulation. And I will continue to go forward and speak to you about what we do in the IP world. So how do we respond as the CIPC, right? So we respond on various levels. The one is that, and I'm hoping many of you who utilize our services can see this, is that we use technology a lot, right? We are highly automated and digitized organization. But we never rest on our laurels. We continue to provide our services even more, because we have a massive, what is called a multi-channel approach, and I'll come to that. So technology, innovation drives us, because we want to supply you with a service wherever you are. Hopefully some of you might be sitting in here today, throughout the day, and if you feel the need and the impetus and the stimulation to start a company, you can even jump on your mobile phone and do that while you're walking through the great exhibition that we have here today. That's where we want to be, right? We don't want you to stand in a queue. You're busy people. You're busy people to grow your businesses. That's why I keep putting the point forward. Now, the CIPC is a facilitator of business, a registrar of business. We're here to help you grow, all right? And we don't want you to be sitting and changing directors over weeks on end, or changing an address over weeks on end. And I'll come to one of the big things, just not beneficial owners and supplying us with that and back and forth. We want you to get on with growing your business, have a business plan, have a marketing plan, commercialization of your businesses. Because ultimately, and let's not shy away, we're all here because you want to make money, right? That's why we're all here. That's the purpose of why you're all sitting here, right? We're not sitting here to bore you, or for Mike and all of the stands that we have here to put on some form of a show of some sort, even though this is a show. But the main purpose is for you to come here to get ideas to grow your business and to make money. That's the ultimate goal for all of us. So we want to be agile to that approach, all right? Because the one thing that we want to do with the CIPC is also to grow the system whereby we also involve in developmental finance. Right? When you come to us to register, we say, wait, but hang on, let's see your plan, let's see what you have to do. Do you know there's an organization called CIFA, for example, Small Enterprise Finance Agency, which is the mother agency under the Department of Small Business? Do you know there's an organization called CEDA? I'm sure many of you have heard of this organization. But how do we formulate a collaborative partnership at the CIPC with all of them, that you're able to get all of these services in one place, all right? And in order for you to grow your ideas that you have in your head. And how we also do all of this is by making sure that we are a data-driven organization. Getting ideas, because we have a stand at CIPC here. I'm hoping many of you attend that stand. I know some of you will attend it to complain that your director hasn't been changed, or your address hasn't been changed, which I do understand. And you're more than welcome to do that, and I encourage you to do that, because it makes us a better organization, right? We hear all of these complaints, and we take the data that we receive, we refine what we do, and ultimately we provide a better service to all of you. That's why we exist, right? We are a citizen-driven, customer-orientated business, not an entity. And innovation is certainly what we strive to perform. So I was speaking about the multi-channel approach. We want to be everywhere. South Africa has a large landmass, right? 9 provinces, massive 2-hour flight from Johannesburg to Cape Town. If you were in Europe and you took a 2-hour flight, you would have gone through 4 countries, right? And here you're still in South Africa. So we've got a large landmass, and therefore we have to give a service to everybody throughout this large landmass. So we've got a multi-channel approach. Some people like to walk in and talk to my staff. So we've got something called self-service centers. Many of you are technology savvy and driven, so you want to go on a website. We want to provide everything on that website, and now we're also moving into the app world. But also when it comes to us providing you with additional services, CIPC has a large social media presence, as I'm sure you all know. I read all the complaints about this and that not being done. Love it. Because at the end of the day, I go back and reflect as a management team to say, this is the hot spot. Why is everybody complaining about this? Why is everybody not getting the joy out of this? We're seeing all the comments, and therefore we appreciate it. And now we're moving into some parts that are quite youth savvy and stuff called TikTok. I know all of you are coming into the TikTok world, so our education and awareness components and all that's going to be TikTok. I don't know about I'm a piano dancing, register a company, I don't know. But we will provide certain things like that, because more and more we are providing services to the youth. So the business registration landscape is huge at the CIPC. We register more than 400,000 companies every year. Massive amount, right? More than 400,000 companies. The current register at CIPC is 2.8 million companies. How many of those businesses are functioning? Well, the annual return certainly will tell us whether they are doing business. Because just recently, I've deregistered 1.7 million companies in the last 4 months. And I know many of you are thinking about reinstatement and are going to run to us to find out how do we reinstate, because we're also having massive reinstatement in CIPC. But just to show you that there is a massive amount of volumes that flow through this organization, and therefore we need to service you better because of these large volumes, right? And provide you with these services throughout the province, wherever you may be. But the fact that we deregister so many companies also speaks to the fact that there is a problem. Because once again, I say to you that 90% or more are small companies, all right? So when it comes to facilitating business, I'm going to say something very, very strange now, and I haven't said it in Parliament, and I've been saying it for years, is that South Africa has got a registration culture. They think that registering a company from the outset of doing business gives you something. I'm sorry, it gives you absolutely nothing. Right? It gives you limited liability, but if you don't have anything else and you don't really have any assets at the forefront of starting a business, it's not really giving you anything. So we want to start prior to that. Business planning. Work out exactly what your customer base is. Work out exactly where you're going to supply the services, exactly which market you are looking at, which industry. All of that is the planning phase. But what people do in South Africa, they're going to register a company. Like it's giving you something, right? Look, don't get me wrong, I would like you to come because that's where I make my fees. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to get fees. I'm a public entity. We must give you the business, we must give you the system of understanding that there's much more to running a business and starting a business and applying your passion, your entrepreneurship passion prior to registration of a company. And that's where all services between the public and private sector need to come together. That's why shows like this, as put together by Mike and his team, is vitally important for you to get ideas about how that works. And therefore, when you come into the regulated world, because you do come into a regulated world when you register, you are therefore empowered in order for you to meet that challenge of registration. So large volumes pumping through here. We're very proud of this, which is called the BIS portal, and hopefully many of you have used this. All right, it's a bit of an award-winning flagship portal that we have, because we try to make your lives easier by having everything in a one-stop environment. And we've been banding these words together. I actually get irritated at those words somewhat in terms of one-stop shop. But we want to provide what we call an integrated service. One of my managers sitting here, her name is Rahel Williams. She's very passionate about this integrated service, having everything in one place, right? So that you don't get bogged down by going here and everywhere. And therefore, utilize the BIS portal. Once you decide to formalize, you can register, you can get a SARS number, you can get a UIF, you get a compensation fund, you get a bank account. We even help you to get a website, right? Because we've partnered with all of this economic ecosystem in order for us to supply you with all of that in one place. So therefore, I'm very proud of that. Please use it and make sure that you're able to get the benefit of it. And the one thing that we do with the BIS portal is that year on year we try to bring additional services into it. so that you are able to expand on what we have to offer regarding that. So, ease of doing business, very important. As you know, that in South Africa, hopefully you know, that it's very, very cheap to start a company. It's only 175 rand, right? Very, very cheap. One day turnaround time. We're actually starting to measure the registration of companies in minutes now, all right? We did a bit of a statistics, and I think that we're doing the majority of small private entities, private companies, whether it's through the e-services portal or whether it's through the BIS portal, the majority of it done between 15 and 30 minutes. So it's very, very easy to start a company. It's very easy to go into the formulated world of ownership, and also it is very cheap and inexpensive under our jurisdiction to start a company. So if you want to formalize, you want to get the benefit of limited liability, you want to get the benefit of succession, you want to get the benefit of, I know a multitude of government entities require you to have a company before you can tender or to supply that service. I need to be on the central supplier database or require that. Make sure that you have your business plan and all of that in place in order to utilize that. Because as I said, and I continue to say, you're coming to the formalized world, right? You're coming to the world of duties. And these duties is what we do in terms of our regulatory space and how we regulate company law. So your duties is to file an annual return. Please do that. You don't file your annual return, I deregister you. That's why we have such millions being deregistered, because of the main thing is the non-filing of an annual return, and also the issues around what is applied within that particular space. We come into the world of registration for tax, ownership details, which I'll come to, which is this new large elephant in the room called beneficial ownership, and many of you obviously know about that now. If you read the newspapers, or if you want to now file an annual return, if you've got a hard stop in your companies, and you cannot file your annual return without supplying us with your beneficial ownership data. It is a legal requirement in order to do that. And I will come to that in a minute. So annual returns is easy. We made it easy for you to file. We made it available on all our various multi-channels, and therefore you are able to do that. Remember, it is also a legislative period, right? Within 30 business days after your registration, of your anniversary date of you registering a company, please file your annual returns. You don't want to end up in the world of being deregistered, because what happened after the 1.7 million entities were deregistered is that the bank closes your bank account. You have a problem with SARS. You want to go out and do other businesses and you possibly want to tender, and when they look up on their systems, because we linked in an integrated fashion our databases to various sources, they see that you are deregistered and therefore non-compliant, you automatically are chucked out of the system, right? So keep your business compliant, most importantly, going forward. You know, when you're so much involved in the world of business, sometimes the whole aspect of how do we keep it compliant falls to the wayside, but make sure that you're able to do that on an annual basis. All right, so I want to touch on this quickly. As I said, new elephant in the room. It came out because of change. I'm sure all of you have heard of this grey listing business now, right? Read in the newspaper, South Africa's investment grade gone down, grey listed. We are a hotbed for money laundering, and a hotbed for terror financing. I think we caught a whole lot of Libyans recently in the country doing some military training. So all of this speaks to, we have to open up as a global competitive jurisdiction and an investment jurisdiction in order for us to tackle enhanced transparency and enhanced accountability. And this is where grey listing has come from, right? And this is where how we have to respond to grey listing is through what is called beneficial ownership. So now, when you register a company and you file your annual returns, you are required by law to supply us with those who are sitting in the back. 5% or more shareholding, you have to supply us with all the details of who those shareholders and beneficial owners and security owners are. And if you do not supply it to us, we issue something called a compliance notice going forward, and therefore your business becomes one on our radar. But simply because the law is keeping up with what is happening in the world globally, there's a multitude of criminal activity that runs through corporate entities, and therefore the grey listing aspect of it we were found to be wanting regarding it. So the objectives is that we have to have a register of persons, and we have to know who they are. We have to bring us in line with the best practices that the world has. Law enforcement has to tap into this register that we have in order for them to investigate and be supplied with disclosure of details of people, of persons who own companies, and therefore people can't hide anymore. Right? There's a lot of debate. We have a lot of debate with the banking world. You know, the banking world is at the forefront of some of these details. They have confidentiality. SARS has confidentiality, but unfortunately the legislation which has now passed, and there's going to be actually an amendment coming to make it even more open, brings about this change in terms of beneficial ownership. So all of you who are here and have a business, who have a company, unfortunately you have to comply. As I said, once you launch your annual return, it will prompt you to lodge your beneficial ownership data as well. If you fail to supply that, you'll fail to lodge your annual return, and therefore at some point you will go into deregistration. Alright, so these are some of the other services that we have, and maybe I want to touch on this before my time is up. And I want to touch on mainly IP. So intellectual property is another way to get your business noticed. Trademarks especially, right? We do 40,000 trademarks on an annual basis. 40,000 of them, from small entities to Coca-Cola and a large multinational. I'm just using this as an example, right? But the point is that an intellectual property system speaks to the heart of protection, monopoly protection, and it speaks to the heart of how do we utilize an inventorship system in order to grow your businesses. Because the one thing that we see, right, and that's why we talk about this ecosystem of businesses, is that many companies in the space of doing what they do formulate IP. They just don't realize they formulate IP. If you're running a business for the last 5 to 10 years and you have a presence that people know that if I'm going to go to such and such a company, they are known and their brand is well known to provide such an excellent service or excellent products, why not trademark that? So nobody else latches onto your brilliant goodwill and your business and starts utilizing it. Right? Use the trademark system. As I said, 40,000 on an annual basis get running through that system in order for you to have the monopoly use of it. Designs. You know, we always speak about a very famous case many years ago of BMW. BMW had an advert, right? Many years ago. And they used certain designs from South Africa. It was I can't remember which, Setswana I think, or something, one of those traditional designs were used in the advert and in promoting a new product throughout the world by BMW. It was a South African design, right? Because we demanded protection for these designs, and we therefore utilized a design system in order for that. All right, so designs is vitally important. And the reason why I'm raising all of this is that we don't think about it. We don't think about the IP system as part of our business, right? We don't think about the using and the utilization of the intellectual property system as a means of growing what we work so hard for and what we're so passionate about. And therefore I want to introduce you, go onto our website at the CIPC and look at what we can do for your businesses as far as that is concerned. I got a friend of mine, for example, who deals with bands when you go to large functions like concerts and stuff, you get these things around, and he owns that. And a couple of years he trademarked his business called IDC Band, and he said it just became amazing how people started recognizing him, recognizing for the quality that he has. And it was a small business. I think he employed 5, 6, 7 people in his business. Eventually he grew to 20 because he utilized effectively the trademark system. So when he bid for business and they looked him up and they said, oh, this guy's got a trademark, there's a perception in people's mind that this is a business that's going somewhere, right? Or it's a business that utilizes the protection and monopoly mechanisms of intellectual property in order for them to be sustainable and in order for them to grow their business. So utilize it and get that done. Patents, we do between 10 and 12,000 patents. Can you believe it? It's a massive amount, through the patenting system. And we at the CIPC, we have also but it's been there for a while now, but I'm starting to grow it. We've got a program called the Inventors Assistance Program. So if you have developed a patent in your business, patenting is extremely expensive, right? You can pay 150,000, 200,000 to get a patent. But we have a system called the Inventors Assistance Program where it'll cost you nothing. All right? We've coupled and we've partnered with pro bono IP lawyers, and we've patented South African young patents through the Inventors Assistance Program. They come to us and they say, we can't afford it, but I've got a patent here. One was a waste removal system. Young guys came to us and told us this. You must have heard about those twins, I think they're twins, who started as X-ray glasses, whereby in the field you look and you can see you've got a fracture and stuff. We currently are working with them, all right, to get all of this into the patenting system, because there's a lot of power when it comes to that. And therefore, in the course of your businesses and stuff that you invent, you must realize that keep your mouth quiet, come to CIPC and we'll certainly assist you with that. But also what we're doing as far as this is concerned is that we've started a process of what is called commercialization. You can have a brilliant invention, but if nobody buys it, what's the point, right? And there's a lot of that also. What's the point if you invent something that nobody needs? You're just sitting with a patent and you're smiling with something on the wall. So we help you commercialize it. We work together with various other partners, Technology Innovation Association. We work with universities. We work with brand holders, multitude of partners, in order for us to get your small ideas out into the market and for you to utilize that particular system. And before I close, I can see the time is beeping in front of me, is that we like to see ourselves as an integrated government. This is just a sharing slide. So government expects us to work in this fashion of dealing and integrated government sources. Therefore, we try and address some of the priorities and the multitude of priorities that we have within the GNU, especially in the economic cluster, in order for us to address some of these challenges that we have. So my time is up. Thank you very much for the time. Really, it's a pleasure to see and meet all of you. Please come to CIPC. We can have a chat. Something that you don't understand, we're more than happy